Australia doesn't just have dangerous wildlife, it's where danger goes to show off. This landmass has evolved some of the world's most lethal animals, in both variety and potency. It's the only country where venom seems to be a national trait, from snakes that can kill in under an hour, to jellyfish, so small they're nearly invisible, yet lethal enough to stop a heart. 20 of the top 25 deadliest snakes call Australia home. The cassowary, a bird straight out of a raptor horror film, has been known to slice open humans with a single kick. Saltwater crocodiles patrol the rivers like ancient war machines, sharks haunt the coastlines, and spiders lurk in shoes, mailboxes, and even swimming pools. But it doesn't stop with predators. This is also a land where pine cones can literally kill you. Insects grow big enough to tap dance on your nightmares, and wildfires rage with apocalyptic fury, setting global records. Australia doesn't just threaten your life, it does it in every ecosystem, at every scale, with flair, creativity, and zero mercy.
It's almost impossible to believe, but modern-day Australia, with its deadly snakes, box jellyfish, and saltwater crocodiles, is actually the toned-down version. If you think the continent today is hostile, just rewind the clock to 50,000 years ago, and you'll find a version of Australia that makes the present-day outback look like a petting zoo. This was a land where reptiles sat at the top of the food chain, and just as humans were stepping foot on this continent for the first time, they found themselves face-to-face with what can only be described as a real-life monster manual. One of the first horrors to greet them may have been quincana, a creature so strange it defies the crocodile playbook entirely. It wasn't an ambush predator lurking in a swamp, it was a terrestrial crocodilian, built for the hunt. With long, upright legs that lifted its body off the ground, quincana could run. Its skull was so unusual that it had to be placed in its own extinct clade, Mecosuchinae, and its toes were hoof-life, more suited to gripping solid ground than paddling through water. Its tail was flat and not paddle-shaped, another giveaway that this croc was not built for the river, it was built for land. Adults averaged around 10 feet and 200 kilograms, already comparable to modern alligators. But some individuals reached up to 20 feet in length, placing them among the apex predators of their time. Their jaws housed zythodong teeth, blade-like, serrated, and compressed, similar to those of predatory dinosaurs like Allosaurus. Each bite wasn't just a wound, it was a butcher's cut, slicing through flesh, tendons, and muscle. These teeth weren't for holding, they were for tearing, and quincana likely used them to bring down prey much larger than itself. It's even likely that humans fell victim to them when caught off guard in open terrain. And just when you thought the water might be an escape, think again. Despite being a land predator, there's evidence that quincana could also swim, possibly using water as both ambush zones and escape routes. There was nowhere to hide. But even this land croc wasn't the final boss of Pleistocene Australia. That honor likely goes to Megalania, also known by its modern name Varanus priscus. If you took a Komodo dragon, cranked its size up to nightmare levels, and gave it venom, you'd have Megalania. Estimated to be over 23 feet long, and weighing up to 600 kilograms, this wasn't just the largest land lizard Australia has ever seen. It may be the largest ever to walk the earth. It was part of a monitor lizard family, which includes modern Komodo dragons and Nile monitors, meaning it had a strong bite, sharp claws, and potentially a venomous bite that could lower blood pressure and induce shock in prey. Megalania was a slow-burning killer. It didn't need to chase you down. One bite and you'd bleed, weaken, and collapse minutes or hours later. Its territory likely overlapped with quincana's, meaning early human settlers arrived on a continent already claimed by two giant cold-blooded nightmares. And those were just the reptiles. Australia at this time also hosted Diprotodon, a wombat the size of a car, Procoptodon, the short-faced kangaroo built like a heavyweight boxer, and Genyornis, a flightless bird taller than a man, with a beak strong enough to crush bone. So yes, Australia today is terrifying, but the version from 50,000 years ago? That was prehistoric hell on Earth, a place where reptiles ruled, mammals were meat, and survival was an open-ended question.
And if you thought fleeing into a swamp might save you, think again, because slithering just beneath the surface of prehistoric waterholes was Wanambi, a snake from a now-extinct family called Matsoidae. Unlike the Megalania, it didn't need venom. At up to 20 feet long, it was about the size of a modern-day Burmese python, but it was built differently. Wanambi had primitive, inflexible jaws, which meant it couldn't unhinge its mouth to swallow prey whole, like today's constrictors. That might sound like a limitation, but in reality, it made things worse. It made the snake more brutal. Instead of swallowing its victims, Wanambi would constrict them to death, then rip them apart piece by piece, disemboweling them with its recurved teeth and immense muscular force. Imagine being caught in a crushing coil, Your blood cut off from your brain, only for the snake to begin tearing into your midsection before you're even dead. Fossils suggest it ambushed near watering holes, lying in wait for thirsty prey, exactly the kind of predator that early humans would have had no defense against. By now, it would be reasonable for you to wonder how any mammal could survive living with so many reptilian, and the answer is, the mammals were just as crazy, because lurking in the dry bushland among the twisted trees and rocky cliffs was a creature so alien, it sounds made up. Thylacoleo carnifex, also known as the marsupial lion. Despite the nickname, it wasn't a lion. In fact, it was more closely related to the modern koala than any feline. But it didn't cuddle eucalyptus trees. It hunted megafauna. Thylacoleo was the largest known carnivorous marsupial to ever live, with average individuals about the size of a wild boar. The biggest were comparable in weight to a female lion or tiger, but where real lions rely on strength and strategy, Thylacoleo relied on one terrifying superpower: the strongest pound-for-pound bite of any mammal in history. Its skull wasn't packed with brain. It was packed with muscle. Massive, dense jaw muscles connected to thick reinforced bones gave it a bite force 2.5 times stronger than a lion of the same size. That meant it could take down prey up to 15 times its own weight. And its teeth? Not canine-like, but incisor-like blades, capable of shearing through tendons, bone, and muscle in a single chomp. This thing didn't just kill, it hacked animals apart. Some theories suggest it might have ambushed prey from trees, dropping down like a furry guillotine. So how did anything survive here? Even the snakes could disembowel you, the lizards could hut you for hours with a venomous bite, the marsupials could bite through your spine like a carrot. Prehistoric Australia wasn't just a death trap, it was a brutal place where early humans were underdogs in every sense. For them, they wouldn't even be able to find peace around the herbivores, as in response to biological killing machines. The herbivores got pretty ferocious themselves. A good demonstration of this is that giant. These plant eaters of this nightmare ecosystem were no easy meal. Diprotodon, a distant and elephant-sized cousin of the modern wombat. These hulking herbivores could weigh up to 3.85 tons, making them the largest known marsupial ever. Their sheer size made them tough to bring down, and their jaws, though designed for grinding plants, could generate 11,000 newtons of bite force, enough to shatter bone if threatened. Despite their peaceful diet, you wouldn't want to stand in front of one during a charge. Their temperament was unknown, but their defensive capability was undeniable. And the skies, or more accurately the plains, held yet more giants. The bird known as Genyornis, one of the last members of the Dromornithidae, or thunderbirds, looked like a prehistoric nightmare despite being a vegetarian. Standing over 6.5 feet tall and weighing a solid 250 kilograms, Genyornis had thick, powerful legs and a crushing beak capable of inflicting serious damage. Though peaceful by nature, it could use its sharp claws, or massive size, to defend itself from ambush predators, especially when herded in groups. Think of it as a flightless tank covered in feathers. But even with the land dominated by thundering birds, wall-crushing wombats, and lizard-shaped war machines, the waters of ancient Australia held horrors that can make any predator on land look tame by comparison. If Quincana was the fast, agile killer, and Palimnarchus the lurking brute, then Baru was something else entirely. A prehistoric crocodile that lived primarily in the inland rivers of Australia, but had skulls built for one thing only: crushing. Fossils of Baru show an animal about 13 feet long, with a broad skull, and razor-ridged teeth designed for bone breaking. Its anatomy suggests a short but devastating bite force. Unlike modern crocs, Baru may have spent more time on land, ambushing animals at watering holes, a beast that didn't just drag prey under, but shattered it before it could scream. By the time humans first walked onto ancient Australian soil, they weren't entering a peaceful paradise. They were stepping into a forgotten biome, one where even the herbivores seemed engineered for war. Take Zygomaturus trilobus, for example. It was no predator, far from it, but this tank of a marsupial, closely related to the modern-day wombat and koala, stood over 5 feet at the shoulder, stretched more than 13 feet long, and weighed up to 500 kilograms. Its name, meaning three-lobed cheekbone, referenced the enormous structure of its skull, designed to hold a jaw packed with grinding muscle, and massive molars for chewing tough, abrasive vegetation. But more importantly, that skull made Zygomaturus nearly bulletproof in a fight. There's strong evidence suggesting it had a reinforced nasal region, possibly used for headbutting or pushing matches, suggesting aggression wasn't off the table when threatened. One can only imagine a territorial clash between Zygomaturus and a predator like Thylacoleo, ending in blood and shattered bone. And then came the Dromornithids, also called thunderbirds. Chief among them was Dromornis stertoni, an 8-foot-tall, 650-kilogram flightless bird that resembled something between a chicken and a bulldozer. Although a distant relative of ducks and geese, it lacked the temperament of either. For years, paleontologists debated whether Dromornis was herbivorous or omnivorous, because its beak was massive and hooked, shaped more like a raptor's than a grazer's. If it wasn't used to crush bone, it was certainly able to pulverize branches, fruit, or skulls with equal ease. In a moment of panic or aggression, Dromornis would have been a force of pure violence. Think a prehistoric cassowary on steroids, with legs capable of kicking through bone, and like modern emus, it may have gathered in flocks, turning an encounter with one into an encounter with many.
But not all prehistoric nightmares look the part. Paleochestes azale, often called the marsupial tapir, looks strange even by Pleistocene standards. At first glance, it resembled a cross between a ground sloth and a moose, but it was in fact a marsupial, distantly related to wombats. What made Paleochestes truly unsettling was its elongated forelimbs, ending in oversized claws more suited for tearing than digging. Its skull was long and deep, suggesting it may have had a short, flexible trunk, much like a tapir, which it likely used to grasp vegetation. But don't be fooled, this animal wasn't soft. Weighing up to 1,000 kilograms, and likely highly territorial, Paleochestes probably used its powerful arms to pull down branches, fight off predators, or defend its young. The claws alone could have been deadly in a close encounter, especially if cornered. And just when you thought things couldn't get more disconcerting, we meet Thylacinus potens, a cousin to the more recent Tasmanian tiger, but larger, more robust, and more powerful. This predator, part of the Thylacinid family, was around the size of a German shepherd, with reinforced jaws and long, slicing teeth adapted for hunting prey much bigger than itself. It roamed Australia during the same period as Stylocoleo and Megalania, yet carved out its own niche as a relentless mid-tier predator. More muscular than its modern descendant, Thylacinus potens may have hunted in packs, targeting young megafauna or even scavenging kills from larger predators. Its strong limbs and bite force suggest it could hold down struggling prey, kill efficiently, and cover large territories. While not the largest killer in the outback, it may have been one of the most persistent, and that can make it even more dangerous. By now, it's clear. Prehistoric Australia was a crucible of evolutionary warfare, a land where no species, carnivore or herbivore, could afford to be defenseless. And if you thought today's venomous spiders and box jellyfish were bad, remember, most of those creatures were already present back then, alongside extinct giants like the massive freshwater turtle Myelania or the crocodilian Palimnarchus, another fearsome aquatic hunter lost to time. To top it all off, the environment itself was unforgiving. Periodic droughts, massive bushfires, and continent-wide climate swings created one of the harshest landscapes on Earth. Yet somehow, early humans, armed with little more than stone tools and community, not only survived, but flourished. Archaeological evidence suggests they hunted many of the megafauna described here. They adapted, strategized, and endured, outlasting the monsters around them. So perhaps, after all, the most dangerous animal in ancient Australia was us. And what's even more chilling? Many of these monsters may have vanished not long after humans arrived. Whether due to climate shifts, competition, or outright hunting, we may have stared these giants down, and somehow won. But what a price it must have been. And what a terrifying world we missed by only a few tens of thousands of years. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.